Okay, let's bring in Mike Lombardi. He is the Strategic Partnership Manager for Whoop. Mike, thank you so much for doing this today. I'm guessing you guys are just about as excited as we are about the big partnership that was just announced with CrossFit.
Absolutely. It's, I've been at Whoop 2.5 years. It's always been, I guess back in the day, a pipe dream to be able to work with the official CrossFit, not just in the CrossFit space. So now to be the official wearable of CrossFit is kind of unbelievable. So we're ecstatic and really excited about the things that are coming.
And most importantly, I get to log CrossFit in my activity
I did that
now.
last night. It was awesome.
Hell yeah.
So, which is, it was a pleasant surprise to look down this morning after I just got worked over in our Friday endurance WOD and got CrossFit on the label. So it was quite the treat. But just real quick, obviously becoming the official wearable of CrossFit is a big deal. And from a surface level, a lot of people think that, data and CrossFit should go hand to hand because of how we operate. What are some of the early focuses for you guys as far as this partnership is concerned and getting it off the ground?
Yeah, so community is a really big and important thing. That's what separates CrossFit from a lot of other things. The methodology is obviously outstanding in the foundations, basically, right? And getting people moving and moving the right way. But it's built this community. And I know that's, we know it's really important to Eric. Community at Whoop, the Whoop community, right, is also very important. So finding ways to educate people further, right, about how Whoop is specifically relevant for CrossFit and people that just do CrossFit as, their main activity. So, all of us here, we probably say, yeah, we're CrossFitters, but the other 22, 23 hours of the day, we're doing something else, right? So how do we help you understand how to utilize those other 23 hours of the day to bring you either your best self to the gym or whatever else you want to do? John and I both have young kids. How do we manage that? How do we be the best partner for, our spouse, the best dad, the best coworker, things like that? And it's by measuring them, right? We measure everything in CrossFit. Why not measure these other things in your own life so that you can improve them? So, that's really the goal we're trying to get here, especially as, we're coming out of the pandemic world eventually. One, making it accessible, but helping people really understand that this isn't just for Noah and Catherine and Brooke. No, it's for everybody. And it's finding the way to, optimize your best self, whatever that means to you. And it does mean something different. So really in the early going, we want to help people understand through the open, like with all these different options, right? So we've got the equipment option, we've got the no equipment option, and we've got the foundation, we got adaptive. What does that look like? Can you perform? How can you recover for this and to perform optimally if you're going to retest, things like that. So getting the sort of community involved and excited is the most important thing for us.
How did this whole partnership start?
Well, as you know, CrossFit was in some in the news earlier this year, and as things transferred to new ownership, it was very clear that there was a completely different mindset around where CrossFit's going, as opposed to how the old office and CrossFit was running. So obviously you can see with new different sponsors who have kind of grown not in the periphery, but like alongside as CrossFit has grown, have now come to the forefront. That's really kind of how it started. And Eric is a data guy, right? He's a tech guy, not a wearable guy, but not yet. But he obviously cares about metrics and the best for the community. So actually, Catherine was a very integral part of kind of getting things rolling. And then soon after, we kept working towards this sort of goal of, how do we best serve the community? We're so well indoctrinated with the group. How do we even bring this to the next level? How do we then add more to the elite level of the competition, similar to things we're doing in other sports? So there's a lot of ways to continue driving forward both Whoop's vision, as well as CrossFit, or this new version of CrossFit that, is going to have a big media perspective, and it's going to be real fan engagement. It's going to be grow even more. So yeah, probably in the fall, I guess it would have been when this really kind of started picking up some steam.
And you kind of mentioned like all these improvements, and we've gotten to see that in real time, seeing the platform and the app expand as far as the journal, some of the loggable items, some of the measurable data points like respiratory rate, which became such a huge element in the past year, particularly with the pandemic. And so I'm curious if there's maybe anything on the immediate horizon, as well as some blue sky hope to accomplish type things for you guys, as far as what you want to add to the platform to kind of meet that criteria.
I wish I could tell you all that stuff.
Good try, man.
When we switched to a subscription model from the original one-time fee, what was always going to be guaranteed is there's going to be a lot of improvements to our platform. That's what really drives the value in the membership. So yes, there are absolutely things coming, and over the next several months, they'll be pretty awesome. So it's continuing to, it's always science-based with us, right? So we're not going to roll something out if it hasn't been thoroughly and rigorously tested and validated to bring insight, right? It's really easy to just put a new coat of paint on something and try and tell people that, oh, this is new and shiny, when it's just a new coat of paint. We're really, the features that will be coming down are going to add significant value.
When you talk about features that are coming down and providing information to people, how specifically do you plan on delivering that at the outset of this partnership to not only the athletes but also the fans/audience?
Are you talking about just specifically to CrossFit, or like
yes.
Whoop features?
Yes, to CrossFit. So how you deliver the information that partnership that entail, or that is involved in that partnership, to everybody? Is it through social media, broadcast? How does that work?
It's gonna be a little bit of everything, right? And that's what's great about this new CrossFit theme, is it's very well put together. And also, we've been in the space long enough to be able to work with people like yourselves and let's say other media personalities that were previously associated with CrossFit media. So we have good relationships with everybody now, and there's a real plan in place. It's multi-phase. That's the beauty of having a multi-year partnership, is that it's not just a one and done. Let's get as much out of the gate. This is a true collaboration in terms of how can we both make each other better. And a lot of that is going to be through education, right? The more that you've probably both been on Whoop, the more you understand about the data, the more you really value what heart rate variability means and your percentage of slow wave sleep and REM sleep. That's because you guys have been on, and you have a closer relationship with us.
Yeah.
We put that content out ourselves, right? We've got, all these podcasts on our metrics and why they're important, and white papers, and it's going to be able to get that stuff that we've already done in front of the CrossFit audience at the right time, in basically the right order. So, from the most basic to the most intricate of concepts, we want to explain all these things, and we're going to work with affiliates on a smaller level. The beauty of how there's people that, I just saw that Austin Maliolo got the director of North America. North American Foot, the fact that there's points of contact that can work with us, and they're already such a powerful educational voice. They control the room, and whoever they sort of listen to is, all right, let's work on how we're going to communicate this to the CrossFit community that it's meaningful to them, right? That's I'm thankful for the good relationship I have with Austin, but that's around the world. That's a great point, but it's utilizing the seminar staff, it's utilizing people like yourselves who have been around and know the value. And you've seen CrossFit at the highest level, and you've seen CrossFit at the most beginner level. That's really what we're trying to accomplish. So it's reaching people where they are with either super intense information or like the most basic information.
Well, as longtime users and men of science, I can confirm in my own research that sometimes a fresh coat of paint does help, because I got a new strap color, and my average day strain went through the roof because I was hitting a little bit harder, had a little extra juice in the old Red Dragon. But
was it look good, feel good, play good?
Oh yeah, look good, feel good, play good, play good. They
that always bothers me because it should be play well, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let that one slide.
Just in having the same snap to it. But this isn't your first Whoop's first major partnership and working with big entities. Earlier last year, NFLPA, PGA Tour, LPGA Tour. Partnerships with institutions like Howard University. And so I'm curious, what are some major takeaways that you guys have learned so far through those partnerships, and some things that have maybe helped kind of point you in a better direction or give you a better foundation to take advantage of the partnership here with CrossFit?
So each one is unique, I'd say. But at the core of a lot of it is sports science and data is finally becoming mainstream and valuable and actionable. It's not something, where maybe people of the past, let's even say the last 10 years who have been super into data. I mean, use like Moneyball, right? People thought they were crazy just because they used analytics, and now it's like the way sports run. So this is just another added level of that sort of piece of the puzzle of how do we, with the PGA, obviously we want to minimize the risk to players. This seems like the most reasonable sport to come back in a global pandemic. But then there's obviously performance insights you can get from that. How do you, what does stretching at this time versus this time do to my recovery? How do I, as I'm traveling across all these time zones, as golfers do, how do I, perform well at every single one? So that's like, they have unique problems they're trying to solve in their sport. On the collegiate level, it's, we're starting to get good recruits. How do we maximize their time? College kids are still college kids. Prior to these partnerships, we still work closely with top institutions and helped them win national titles, utilizing their Whoop data in a very scientific and structured way around practice times, travel schedules, things like that. Setting real goals around, how much, what's our goal sleep performance? What's our goal? How do we minimize sleep debt? How do we get that sort of perfect balance of REM and slow wave sleep, and working on that. So that's sort of like more the collegiate model. And then with CrossFit, it's a high intensity discipline a lot of times, and people want to come in and they want to work hard, and there's a lot of other measurable data, right? We measure everything else, but how fast you do that work, how much weight did you move, what did you do the last time you did it? Only makes sense that we're measuring the other pieces. So what's potentially limiting me from improving? I haven't PR'd in X amount of time. Is it a mobility thing? How does doing mobility affect my recovery support or my sleep? Rich, I don't know if you guys, you watch Mayhem stuff ever. Rich had like 19 or 20, like some insane amount of disturbances over the course of his night. And he's just like, yeah, my body's always sore. So it's, how do I eliminate the soreness so that my disturbances go down? So I can come back and be better. I mean, look, Rich is amazing. I'm just saying the average person would just would feel bad and be like, man, let's go sit on the bike for 30 minutes. So it's a different thing. And then really educating on sleep. So that's the big CrossFit one too, is how do we get people more sleep if we can get that, and how do we get better sleep so that we can come in and recover better, that sort of thing, and sort of help people guide through their own sessions, self-guide almost, and help coaches too. It's both sides. So it's, if I know that the day is CrossFit total, that's the workout of the day, and I know I've got like an 18% recovery, Maybe I just, set realistic expectations for myself, or I don't do that workout. Like it's very simple. And then as a coach, you look at it too, and you be like, okay, my athletes, this person's been in the red 3 days. They probably shouldn't train, or they're in the green. I'm going to try and push them. So it's little ways to almost add more intelligent coaching into each class experience. So it's even more personalized than it already is.
Yeah.
So it's unique, I guess, what I would say, to each one.
Yeah, you kind of touched on something, what I was going to follow up with about what necessarily, or what maybe makes CrossFit a little bit more unique. And I think it's interesting because you touched on how analytics have become such a big part of the other professional sports at this day and age, but that adoption and that process took some time. I'm an A's fan, so Moneyball was at the forefront of me for the get-go. It's the only reason why we were competitive with teams like the Yankees. And now you see it in the NFL, where coaches are taking real-time data and making decisions based on that in the game. And I'm curious now, because CrossFit is unique, but it does seem like it has a natural fit within the realm of human performance. So I'm kind of curious if you think that in what ways this can maybe accelerate the sport, or maybe kind of take it to that next evolution, whether it's, the use of real-time data in application, or, in between events and things like that.
So this is where it's, it's good to be able to practice things ahead of time and knowing what are the things that bring me back. If I've buried myself, like many people will in a competition, what are the things I can do in my sort of dry runs or on my day-to-day that I know work? So it's really fine-tuning it for the individual athletes, but it's also, helping anybody that just goes to the gym come back better. If somebody wants to train 6 days a week, how do you do that? But that's just the truth. And if you don't know, really what happens is, and I don't know if we talked about this one of our previous conversations, but most people with no data at all will say, yeah, I think I got this much sleep. So if I was in bed for 8 hours, I probably slept 6.5 to 7 maybe. And what kind of quality sleep was that? I don't know. So what happens is, what you're perceiving as 100% is realistically your 70% of your real potential, but you don't know that. So, and your body just acclimates to this lower level of operation. And this is well, this is as good as it gets for me. I mean, you've probably seen your own heart rate variabilities with different behavioral modifications shift up, right? Your resting heart rate goes down, things like that, but you wouldn't know that otherwise. So that's where I think sports science is going to play a big part in here. It's almost a validation of training blocks too, aside from the objective measurements of times and weight moves and things like that. It's how am I progressing? And really an important one in something like CrossFit is career longevity. How to, and I think that's a big part, period, with some of these partnerships too, is how do we keep people healthier for longer? So if you almost think of it like a fluid periodization, what the goal is. Hey, I want to do well enough in the open so that I can go to the quarterfinals and then semifinals and then to the games. Okay, well, that here are the things you probably have to check off the box to be at that level. But just because the plan says it doesn't mean that that's what you have to hit on that day. So that's kind of what I was talking about, going back to that just sort of class example. I'm moving towards, I want to just get fitter, or somebody picks a goal, but you don't always have to go in and hit the workout 9,000% every single day. It's knowing when to pull back, because your body, if you just pull back a little bit on one day, it's going to allow you to come back the following day instead of taking 2 to 3 days off, or maybe tweaking something and taking 2 weeks off. Mm-hmm. That's really what this is going to help, because everybody has that story where they don't trust the data yet. And they go in and they do something stupid and they're like, shit, I buy it. I get it. It was right. Whoop was right. So it's I do something stupid, or I feel really tired, but my recovery says it's really good. So I'm going to go in, and then they go PR. like something like that. So this is where it's such another valuable data point to, yes, mentality is one piece, but your body is actually telling you things. And heart rate variability is pretty much imperceptible unless you're measuring it. So, and then you can look back at your sleep. You understand, like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. I got like 60% REM and slow wave sleep tonight. Yeah, okay, I buy it. Let's go. So pushing that forward. I mean, I think the US in a lot of ways is so far behind in sports science. I know that's probably a ridiculous thing to say, but from I can only speak to it from like the more like Olympic sport world, and rowing specifically, that stuff that like Great Britain and Australia and New Zealand and Germany have been doing for decades. It's like we're arriving there now. So what the hell are they doing now if we're getting where they were 20 years ago? So that's really it. It doesn't have a stigma anymore, and it's really helpful. That's the bottom line. It's super helpful.
Yeah.
One thing that we were talking about this before we came on here that I am super excited about with this is being a fan of other sports and seeing how they use, analytics and real-time data from players that they can, give to the audience. It gives, a fan a even deeper look at what is going on, whether it's on the field or on the ice. Is that Whoop seems to have that potential to provide that kind of data for a broadcast. And I'm curious what the conceptualization of that is as you move forward.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways, right? Because this is where CrossFit's so exciting for this possibility. We're always testing something different, right? Like what does, it would have been super fun to see what Matt Fraser's heart rate looked like when Dave told him he's got to turn around and run it backwards, right? Stuff like that. Like, I think things we're going to learn about athletes in real time is what makes this person so great, or what separates the good from the great. Is it that they can lower their heart rate like in high pressure moments, which is probably what happens with most elite pro athletes in any sport, is when other people are maybe a little more frantic, they're calm, they're controlled, and that allows them to execute whatever they're doing. So that's a cool aspect. It's kind of seeing, how people have paced something. Maybe it's like a chipper or, weightlifting stuff. Like it's kind of like hopping in the tee box, right? Like if we're going around the indoor stadium or the arena in Madison and we're doing a 1 rep clean and jerk, what does that look like? Where does the heart rate start? Where does it get to? How long does it take to come back down? What does the crowd do for it? Is the celebration even more than the clean and jerk? So all these types of things that like make it a real human experience. That's a really cool thing. Plus how do we look at the recovery aspect? Do we look at it ahead of time? This is where it's all about, athlete data and where do we get with, privacy and sharing. But after the fact, you could almost look at it as, well, yeah, that makes sense that so-and-so kind of fell apart there because those first 2 days of the games absolutely demolished them. And there just was like 0 in the tank. And it was there. It's in the data. So that it's almost making it like, yeah, these people are like us, but at the same time, man, these people are not like us because one, I couldn't have completed that workout and their heart rate didn't go above like 135.
Yeah, it's funny because you say that. I'm like, I would have loved to see Matt Fraser's and Tia's heart rate during the Max Clean event in 2019. Everything from the lift to the celebration afterwards, like you said, and how the crowd impacts elements like that. To me, that's just like a beautiful quantifiable thing that, is, like you said, is imperceptible to the eye outside of, you see them celebrating, but what does the celebration look like in every little element? And man, to me, that seems like the possibilities are endless. But you talked about the element of data privacy and sharing and adoption, things like that. And I'm curious if you have, how you've been able to kind of manage that with other partnerships like the NFLPA and like the PGA Tour, where even in like golfers, I feel like they're so superstitious and they're so particular in their thing and how they operate. Like, where was that line and what was the tipping point for them?
So people have to opt in, right? It's always going to be the case.
Mhm.
That to get data, people have to, or for us to be able to share the data, people have to opt in. And there's sort of different incentives depending on the relationship for what that means. So, this is where, yeah, let's say somebody that has a contract to negotiate, NFL, NBA, anybody, they're probably going to be a little less willing to share their data because of any hypothetical thoughts around it. So that data is really just for them. For the tour, it's heart rate data, real time, strain, like that stuff is, it's kind of, it's cool data to have. But there are incentives for players to opt in. And then, the CrossFit, it's all about figuring out what's the best format, how we're going to do it. So we obviously can't force anybody to do anything. Data privacy is paramount to Whoop, and we would never do anything or share anyone's data that really didn't want it out there. So this is where you kind of get into two different schools of thought, or two different types of athletes, I guess. The ones that are like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, and you can do it, and I'll still beat you. So the Rich Fronings of the world,
Yeah,
here it is, you can do it. And other people that are a little more private. There's a ton of people that are way more private. There's the secret sauce and that's what gives them the edge, and that's fine. So it's really who wants to share. But what we're hoping to showcase over the next year is this is a really great element for the sport, for the community, and for everyone to kind of be able to connect. We suffer together on a regular basis. It's always fun to kind of commiserate and be like, oh wow, I can't believe I had this strain, you had this strain, oh, and the recovery. And then even be able to, how do we look at that on an open leaderboard? If we're bringing it back to the community aspect too, like if you're gonna retest, like let's say you're nervous on Friday to do 21.1 and your recovery's bad. Okay, that you can kind of tie this score to that, and then it's a green recovery, you can tie your score to that. So having a sort of database of what are my performances like in this sort of range? What am I like in the yellow? What am I like in the green? So again, more data, just more intelligent decision making around everything, particularly training.
Yeah. When you were speaking with CrossFit about getting this partnership going, I'm curious, what were the things that were important to them that they came to you and said, okay, we want to make sure if we do this, you guys have to check these boxes?
Community.
Yeah.
CrossFit community. Making sure that it's accessible, and that's at the forefront. Games and everything is great. Elite athletes is great, but it has to be back to the boxes, back to the affiliates, and really adding value to them. That's honestly the biggest thing, and I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Yeah.
Again, like we talked about earlier, that's what makes CrossFit so special.
Yeah. That means a lot. And I mean, we're already talking about ways to involve that this year. I know there's some things that were kind of in the works that you can't talk about, but things like hashtags in the leaderboard. Is there anything that Whoop is trying to do for the open right now, even if it's not data wise, but just community wise, to start fostering that sense of community in the open?
Yeah, the hashtag Whoop in the open is great. Obviously you can compete with your own affiliates or wherever you train, with your community in the Whoop app. But this is a cool way to actually compete with an objective metric of whatever, tests are going to be thrown our way soon. So you versus the whole Whoop community. It's another cool leaderboard. Obviously, we're excited for people to be able to throw CrossFit back in the app. We're going to have some cool sort of data stories coming throughout the course of the open, about the open. So that's really kind of how we're going to get going, and then we're going to have a lot more coming in the following months, engaging the community and the affiliates.
I'm guessing because of this partnership, there are a lot of people in the CrossFit realm who are going to be taking a real hard look at Whoop and deciding to maybe get involved. And I've gotten questions from people who are doing that right now, and they may have experience with other wearables, and they ask me some things that, comparison wise, I just don't know how to answer. I tell them, yeah, I love my Whoop. I love what it tells me. I love what I'm able to glean from it, but I'm not necessarily able to tell them why it's different than what they're currently doing. And a friend of mine came to me with a calorie thing. He's like, why? I wear two different things and I get two different calorie counts. So how does Whoop manage that?
Yeah. It's always a hot topic question, the calorie count. So it's really how people calculate BMR and the formula they're using. How are they looking at the composition of their average sort of person? What's their accelerometer like, things like that. So you're always going to get probably slightly different things. We believe that ours is as accurate as you're going to get for a wrist-worn device. The advice that we always give, if caloric burn and how much you're taking in is of the utmost important, or like that's what you're most focused on, this is a great time to sort of track your macros and see what's going in, and you'll be able to compare. John and I were kind of joking around about, you do a workout, you don't believe the calories, and then, we go split a pizza. Maybe the calories are right. I don't know, but it's not working. So I think if the algorithms that we have and our data scientists are outstanding. So it's continuously refined. Anytime that there's possibilities to make improvements to it, we do. So that's, with the technology that we have, with the 3.0 versus the 2.0, it just allows for even better algorithms and more accurate data. So everything you're getting is as accurate as it gets. That's why we have all that third-party validation from, top institutions around the world.
And one thing I do want to just throw out there is I saw the post from the Fan Controlled Football League where they showed the play with real-time heart rate data from the quarterback, and just the concept of maybe even incorporating that in CrossFit. So I don't know. Did you see that?
I haven't. We were actually talking about that. But
yeah,
that's, as people in the media, that's what really excites me about being able to, tell that story one level deeper. Like, we know the people we're watching on the floor, we know they're better than us, but because they lift more and they're more fit and they do these workouts more quickly. And now we can go a level deeper and say, well, physiologically, this is how they are different than you. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just seeing the quarterback scramble and like run for his life and like his heart rate jack up. Like I immediately started envisioning like what that would look like on the CrossFit floor. You have 10 athletes wide, and imagine if you could just have a tracker, right, with the heart rate above them, and you see Matt Fraser's at like 95 and everybody else is at like 140 plus as they're in the back half of the workout, and you're like, wow, that's an amazing story there. So I'm just kind of like obviously spitballing here, but there's some things that we've already seen with Whoop and in other leagues like the Fan Controlled Football League that I like, just gets me excited. We've been tagged in it a bunch, and I think we're both as people that work in broadcast and and storytellers on the creative side, that like, man, it seems like there's a ton of possibilities.
I'm fired up about it.
Absolutely.
I'm curious now, Mike, as you guys look ahead, not only with the CrossFit partnership, but also as a company and how much you've grown just over the past year. What are some of the goals for the company that you guys want to achieve as you move forward into 2021?
We want to keep being more and more accessible to everyone. And like you said, there are plenty of substitutes for people looking for different data sets, I'll say. And Whoop is, a heady value proposition. But, even understanding it at a very simple level is so valuable for anybody. My parents are turning 70. Like, my dad just got the vaccine, so for him to like send me the respiratory rate like 2 days after and how it like jumps, it's like, okay, this is super valuable and a completely different perspective, right? Or it's, my mom plays golf every day, it's like, and then she ends up in the red, and I'm like, Mom, like, of course you're messed up, like you're not giving yourself a break. Like, all ages, it's relevant, and no matter what you're doing, retired, young, trying to get in shape, already in shape, had a new baby, whatever it is. How do we help you better understand what's happening with your body, and how can you feel better on a daily basis? That's what we're trying to do. And how do we get some more objective metrics or outside metrics like wattage to strain and things like that. So continuing to refine what's already solid, but always looking to improve. So we're never going to stop delivering more value to our members, and really just continuing to grow in these spaces. We want to be as integral to CrossFit as your sneakers are.
And speaking of that, I use my Whoop all the time. I love it. There are people out there, I'm sure, who are using it too, but I'm wondering if I'm getting the most out of it. What are some things that people can do within the app to make sure that they are getting the most out of the data they're getting and providing the most relevant data that they need to make sure that they're getting the most accurate information possible? Absolutely.
So first starts with wearing this thing all the time. Train in it. You don't have to shower in it, but you can if you want. Make sure it's charged. Don't miss a night of sleep. That's super important. Then make sure that you have the right journal entries that are relevant to you. Okay, pick ones, and probably not so many that you're going to stop doing it. That every morning when you wake up, you're willing to answer those questions. So we can tie that back to your sleep data, and then after each week and each month, we're going to give you real insights about yourself and how your behaviors are affecting heart rate variability, sleep performance, flows, all of that stuff. That's the more you give to the Whoop app, the more that you're going to get out of it. And once you kind of learn something, try something else. So if hey, I pretty much do this all the time, that's the base level. I can remove that one. I just take melatonin all the time. Great. Okay, swipe out. I don't need that one anymore. Let's try another little micro experiment. What happens if I drink this much water and this much at this timing? So once you've kind of established the base, then start doing these like little micro experiments of things that you think might improve, and do it for 2 weeks. If it doesn't work, let's move on to the next thing. If it does work, okay, keep it. Great. This is the thing I'm going to keep in. Let me measure something else now. So continually refining, because you're not the same person, month to month, year over year, right? And circumstances change. So if I was still trying to do the same stuff as when, before the baby, it just wouldn't work. And honestly, like, here's a perfect example of, it also just helps you understand where you are in life. So prior to the baby, my average heart rate variability was like 100, and now it's like 55. So
wow,
like that's several months of hanging on, like trying to optimize hanging on.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it's understanding, like, all right, if that's kind of where I am right now, how do I get to a 70? And what are those things? So, I'm going to go hard on water for 2 weeks. Let me get back to the basics. So that's really, it's sort of a guiding force of, even when you get off track, that's okay. Why did you get off track? You can identify it, and then you can just slowly build back up. So it's just such a good accountability tool. So I think people, when they see data they don't like, they say, screw this thing. It's no, just take it as, this is just what's happening right now. Why is it happening? And what can I do? And then start small. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to run every morning before sunup, and then I'm going to drink water, and I'm going to have this breakfast. Like, attainable goals that allow you to make some progress, and then just kind of build on it. And that's where Whoop can be super valuable, because you're going to see those changes quickly.
Yeah. All I hear is like the next level of parenting, right? Like, our parents told us to like get us to listen to them. It's like, I had to feed and clothe you. Now you can give them data. You're like, you ruined my heart rate variability for 7 months. You killed my sleep. And it is undeniable fact.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah, there'll be many a screenshot on my phone.
It's all just ammo for parents now. That's fantastic.
Well, Mike, listen, we really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and we are super excited about the partnership, and we can't thank you guys enough for the support you've shown us. Big fans of Whoop, and I am going to go after this, change my journal entries, because I think it's probably time I update those and start doing a little experiment to see what I can do to improve my sleep.
Love it. Well, thank you both for let me hop on. Always great talking to both of you.